Will the Israeli hostages in Gaza decide the fate of Trump's ceasefire deal? That is the big question, among others, that is being asked. As Israel and Hamas finally agreed to a truce and the release of all hostages held in Gaza, it's being seen as a major breakthrough, one that could end the war that's devastated Gaza, destabilized the region in a way, and triggered protests around the world. Israel's Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister has confirmed that the ceasefire will take effect following a cabinet meeting later today. And a government spokeswoman is saying that within 24 hours after the cabinet meets, a ceasefire will begin in Gaza. And after that 24-hour period ends, a 72-hour period for the hostages to be released will start. The deal was reached overnight after days of indirect talks in Egypt, mediated by the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey. And all of it based on a peace plan rolled out by US President Donald Trump just last week. Trump himself has announced, and I'm quoting, "I am very proud to say Israel and Hamas have signed off on the first phase of the peace plan," quote unquote. And he said that all 20 remaining live hostages, plus the remains of those who died in captivity, would be released very soon. And as part of that, Israeli troops would begin pulling back to agreed lines. And the first steps, Trump said, towards what he called a strong, durable, everlasting peace. Both Israel and Hamas have confirmed the deal. In Gaza, there were scenes of joy as Palestinians celebrated. The news suites, Palestinian flags were seen. One civil defense member saying, "We cannot believe it."
Honestly, these are indescribable feelings. We can't believe it. But thank God the war has ended and we are alive. Honestly, we hope the war does not come back and for this to be really the end, with no death and destruction afterwards. Hopefully, people would return, build their houses, and life returns to how it was, God willing.
There were celebrations in other parts as well. Thousands of Jewish worshippers were seen dancing and singing near Jerusalem's old city walls, their holiday prayers turning into spontaneous celebrations.
I'm very, very happy. We prayed all the in Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah for the hostages to come back and be healthy and safe, and all the soldiers, and I'm very, very happy to hear about it.
In Tel Aviv, crowds gathered this morning in Hostages Square, waiting, hoping for the handover to start. Under the agreement, Israel will release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and allow a surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza through the UN and other agencies. The IDF has already started what it calls operational preparations to adjust its deployment lines, essentially preparing for a gradual pullback to a new buffer zone inside Gaza. But the talks are not over yet. Negotiations in Egypt will continue, especially over the reconstruction and the future governance of Gaza. US President Donald Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister, in fact, want Hamas to disarm and give up any role in running Gaza. And that's something that Hamas has not agreed to. Still, Netanyahu is calling it a national and moral victory for Israel. He says he had a very emotional and warm conversation with Trump, congratulating each other on what they both called a historic moment. World leaders also welcoming the breakthrough. Germany, the UK, France, among them. Even Hamas, in a rare tone, thanked mediators and notably praised Trump for his role, saying the deal ensures the withdrawal of Israeli forces and ends the war on Gaza. But they have also warned that they will never give up their people's national rights until freedom and self-determination are achieved. That's what they have said. Among Netanyahu's cabinet, meanwhile, there are mixed reactions emerging. Supporters, including the foreign minister, the defense minister, energy minister, transport minister. Cohen said the deal would ensure Hamas plays no role in Gaza government and would be disarmed. In fact, the finance minister expressed mixed emotions. He welcomed the hostages' release but voiced concern that freeing Palestinian prisoners could release future quote-unquote terrorist leaders. Smotrich, in fact, said Hamas must be destroyed after the hostages are freed. He will vote against the deal, but has not threatened to bring down the coalition. The National Security Minister, meanwhile, who last week warned that he might quit if Hamas remained after the hostages' release, has yet to comment. Remember, this war started with Hamas's attack on Israel. October 7, 2023 was the date when they killed 1,200 people. As a part of that attack, abducted 250. And since then, Gaza's health ministry has said over 67,000 Gazans have been killed in the Israeli retaliation. Israel's government disputes accusations of genocide, but the UN-backed panel says famine has already set in across parts of the territory. And the war also spilling far beyond Gaza. Israel even fought a 12-day air war with Iran in the month of June, with the US forces joining in to strike Iranian nuclear sites. And in the West, protests have continued for months. Israel's isolation is growing even within Europe. Trump, in a Fox interview, in fact, has said that he told Netanyahu, and I'm quoting, Israel cannot fight the world, and he understands that very well, quote unquote. And while this may be a first step towards peace, many questions still remain. The hostages, the release of prisoners, Hamas's disarmament, Israel's internal politics could still derail the process. The question still is, will the release of hostages cement Trump's ceasefire deal? Or will politics unravel it before peace even begins? And finally, this deal also carrying major implications for Netanyahu, with mixed reactions in his cabinet, particularly from key ministers like Smotrich and the yet-to-comment Ben-Gvir. Netanyahu facing political pressure at home, and even as he hails the agreement as a national and moral victory. Moving on for now, unmanned drone boats, a small, fast and lethal new class of vessels rewriting the rules of naval warfare, giving a glimpse that the next great lethal naval front may no longer be about which country builds the biggest ship or submarine, but about who controls the smartest, smallest and most autonomous fleet. And that race is already underway, by the way. In the Portuguese Navy's annual exercise, unmanned technology is experimented, and this massive exercise held off the coast of Portugal has grown from a small test event into one of the world's biggest gatherings for drone-based naval warfare. This year, navies from Ukraine, NATO countries, global defense firms spent 3 intense weeks testing their latest unmanned surface vessels across 10,000 square miles of the ocean. The world first saw the potential of drone boats in October 2022 when Ukraine launched a surprise kamikaze-style attack on Russia's Black Sea fleet. Fast forward 3 years, these drone boats are fast, they are stealthy and they are deadly, armed not only with explosives but also machine guns, missiles, even quadcopters hidden under their decks. And every major navy is now racing to catch up. In fact, Russia has already deployed its own set of drone boats. 2 months ago, with the help of drone boats, Moscow struck Ukraine's largest warship in the river there, and China also unveiled the world's largest unmanned vessel, a 60-meter stealth called the Orca. The US Navy is testing similar vessels in the Pacific, preparing for potential conflicts. While Taiwan has built its own fleet of interceptor drones, European navies are reportedly experimenting with uncrewed vessels for mine hunting, patrolling, protecting undersea pipelines. But this new technology comes with challenges, of course, because no one yet knows how far or how fast it will evolve. For example, during one Ukrainian attack on Crimea in late 2022, communication links failed mid-mission, reportedly due to a blackout of Musk's Starlink service that exposed just how dependent modern warfare has become on satellite connections. And in response, new drone designs now include backup radio and 5G antennas to ensure that they stay connected and deadly. And as the quest for producing maritime drones surges globally, the extent of its maritime potential is only being realized now. All right, so U.S. President Donald Trump talking about that crucial deal between Israel and Hamas, talking about the hostages to be released on Monday or Tuesday and the signing to be taking place in Egypt. We will, of course, keep a close eye on those updates coming in at this point, but we're staying on with updates from the United States, where we are talking about the National Guard troops that are marching on the streets as one city after another in America is turning into a battlefield of politics, power, protest. The latest one being Chicago. On Thursday morning, National Guard soldiers were seen stationed at the U.S. Immigration Processing Facility. They carried sidearms, but no riot gear, in a quieter presence, but one that shows a country deeply divided. President Trump has deployed 500 National Guard troops, including 300 from Illinois, 200 flown in from Texas, to protect the immigration officers. But the move has triggered a legal and political firestorm. Democratic governors in Illinois and Oregon are accusing the president of overreach, of exceeding his authority by federalizing their state troops without consent. At noon, U.S. District Court Judge will be hearing the plea as Chicago and Illinois demand that the White House be blocked from sending troops into their streets. In Oregon, in fact, the standoff is equally tense. The National Guard remains blocked by the court orders as the lawyers for both sides prepare to argue whether Trump's order violates the Constitution. Meanwhile, protesters continue to rally outside the facilities in Broadview and Portland, defying barriers, the heavy security, and weeks of government crackdowns. The Trump administration, remember, insists the deployments are about restoring law and order and what it calls crime-ridden democratic cities. But critics are saying it's a dangerous spectacle, an election year play to project strength while deepening that divide. In Chicago, meanwhile, hundreds took to the streets again Wednesday night, demanding justice for Gonzalez, an immigrant fatally shot by the agents last month. Police kept a rather low profile, but the anger was loud and it's not fading.